Alright guys, here we are again with more Umineko. Let me tell you all right now, get ready to be excited because this particular episode was something. I can't even describe it, but it's something to appreciate because it was just, everything about it was just so unexpected and pretty surprising. So if anything else guys, sit back, relax, hope you all continue to enjoy. Thank you again for our love and support. Let's get right on to it. Alright everyone, welcome back.
ならば実行しなさい。すべてに死を。新しき後ろ宮家の当主として、この血塗られた儀式の遂行を。
了解したよ。実行する。僕は今やもう、後ろ宮家の当主だ。
ええ、そうよ。自らの手で、その玉座を赤く染めなさい。君は悪魔たちを滑る魔界の王となる。
Gop was now sure. This man was truly fitting to succeed Kinzo's madness.
吹けよ嵐！鳴らせよ雷鳴！新しき魔王の誕生を祝うがいい！悪魔の島は今、新しい王を迎えた！
But what about the others in their test? That makes no sense. In response to the demon's call, the tempest raged more and more. Or are they going under the assumption that he already won? Is that why? That still doesn't make much sense to me because Kinzo had strict rules about this. Then a massive lightning bolt fell, its tearing thunder and brilliant light creating the feeling of just a moment of silence.
でさ、その殺害の順番だけど、僕が決めていいわけだよね。
どうぞご自由に。新しき六軒島の魔王陛下。あなたの御心の赴くままに。
とりあえずさ、その一番目が君になるわけだけど、いいかな。
I knew he was gonna use that. The moment he asked if I can choose the order, I was like, okay, you're gonna go for Gop.
え？
A gust of wind blew, stirring up George's jacket as though it was a cloak. It was very much like the cloak worn by the head. It definitely gave the same impression of grandeur. At that time, Gop certainly saw the storm wiped away and the sky covered with a pure white and vast full moon. Bearing the full moon on his back, the man who called himself the new head sneered at the demon.
後ろ宮家親族のすべての命さえも、今や僕の財産だ。それに損害を出してくれた賠償。安くは済まないよ。まさか、僕の両親に、夏日おばさん、ルドルフおじさん、ローザおばさん。そして、源氏さんの命を奪っておいて、この僕が見逃すと、本気で思ってるのかい？
はは、生意気よ。
Voronov had been intending to press his palm against Jessica's chest and stop their heart. But a short distance away, his hand had stopped. On the carpet at their feet, small red flowers bloomed one after another. The seeds of those flowers had fallen down from high above, all the way from Jessica's fist, held up as though to strike the heavens. Voronov's nose was stained with red with spurting blood, and those drops were dripping onto the carpet.
ちなみに、さっきのは乙女としての回答な。
Oh, I am liking this.
次期当主としての回答は別だぜ。
お伺いしますよ。
大好きな人も、家族も、親族もみんな私が守る。私が当主なら、それは私の責務だ。お父さんは威張ってるだけじゃない。私や母さんを守ってた。 後ろ宮家を受け継ぐ重圧ってやつと何十年も戦ってた。だからわかるぜ。次期当主ってのはな、ガだからさ。捨てられるんだよ。自分の命くらい簡単にかけられちまうんだよ。
Jessica knew. She knew that her father, in order to protect his family, was even now bluffing and fighting a solitary fight. Jessica understood something that his back had been telling her. Another left straight was buried into Ronald's face. That mighty strike wasn't due just to the brass knuckle she was using. It was the strike of a person, a family head, who could throw away everything in order to protect.
父さんが次期当主の資格を失ったなら、順当に次の当主は私が継承するぜ。後ろ宮家当主、後ろ宮ジェシカ。これ以上好きにさせるほどふぬけちゃいねえぜ。
And here I thought, you know, I was worried about Jessica. I like this. I like this a lot. Good turnaround.
素晴らしい回答です。
Good turnaround for both George and Jessica.
先ほどの点数を改めましょう。その回答に10点プラス、見事な左ストレートに10点プラス。
ってことはあと20点プラスで100点満点だな。
Ronald backflipped away from her and violently wiped away the blood pouring from his nose. It had become not blood, but petals of red rose. The blood on his face was wiped off, and in its place was a grin from a great delight, which he had last felt so many centuries ago that he could no longer remember just how long it had been.
ジェシカ様の覚悟、満点に値するかどうか、この炉の上、試させていただきますよ。
うぜえぜ、かかってきやがれ。
おいで奈落へ。
Beneath George's feet, a pitch black pit suddenly opened its mouth wide. Of course, George had no way of resisting. After being swallowed up by it, George fell out of a pitch black hole that had opened up in the ceiling of the arbor. As George fell down, he was hit sharply in the gut like a precision B strike by a reverse roundhouse kick from the stiletto heel. Launched out of the arbor, the instant George thought that he was about to be swallowed up by a rose bush, another pitch black hole opened there and swallowed George up. At this time, a pitch black hole opened in front of Gop at her feet, spitting a defenseless George out of it. By that time, Gop had already finished her preparatory motions for the next reverse roundhouse kick.
これは。
おかえりなさい。
Right side of the head, below the right armpit, side of the right knee. As Gop danced and spun like a small cyclone, she kept hitting him, right foot, left foot, with successive roundhouse kicks. The fourth one became a sweep, cutting George's feet out from under him and making him fall down. But of course there was no floor there, but a pitch black hole, and George was swallowed up once again. Gop once again spun around like a small cyclone. George likewise was once again spat out from the ceiling of the arbor.
食らって噛み締めなさい。奈落の終点が一撃。死ね！
The sharp strike of the queen bee pierced the heavens like a rising cyclone. You know, I'm of the opinion that someone like George will eventually understand the pattern. He seems like that kind of thinker. I don't think he's a fighter, but I feel like he'll understand the pattern quick enough that he'll be able to counter. It kicked through George's abdomen as he fell from the ceiling. And then, time froze. George was pinned in midair by Gop's raised leg. Still pinned in midair, George moaned. Then Gop, with George still hung up on her foot, grinned.
認めてあげるわ。君の態度だけは一人前よ。でも、 力が伴わなきゃダメだわ。知ってる？この世を滑るには3つの力が必要だそうよ。一つは権力。一つは財力。最後は何か知ってる？
本で読んだよ。暴力だろう。
正解。君にはそれが足りないわ。
2 out of 3 ain't bad. God finally released George. By kicking him upwards one more time, adding in another roundhouse kick and smashing him into a pillar. Man, I was honestly counting on the fact that George would pick up on the pattern.
権力を伴わない王者にも、財力を伴わない王者にも、そして暴力を伴わない王者にも、人は誰も恐れない。金蔵はその3つを兼ね備えたわ。だからこそ、暴君として君臨した。君も金蔵の後継者を名乗るならば、その貫禄を見せてごらんなさい。ほら、いつまで寝ているの？立ちなさい。じゃないとまた、落ちるわよ。
悪くない動きですよ。しかし、レディには少々ふさわしくないかと存じますよ。
Why aren't you picking on God then?
いやーひょろひょろとちょこまかと反撃してこねえのかよ。なめてんのか、うぜえやつ。
Roanoke was dodging skillfully, jumping back and avoiding Jessica's fists. But he still wasn't striking back himself. Because of his agile movements, as swift as a flag whipping around in the strong winds, Jessica's fist wasn't even able to touch him. Amidst a feeling of her blood running hot, Jessica regained her offensive composure. Even though this room was large for a bedroom, it was too small an area to keep up such exaggerated dodges for long. She calmly realized that and started using not just her fists, but her legs as well.
ほう。ボクシングは腕でやるだけのうちは半人前です。腕は熱く吠えたける獅子のように、そして足は冷たく獲物を狙って追い詰める蛇のように。
蛇に足はねえぜ。
確かに。
Jessica began cornering Roanoke towards the wall with perfect footwork. She wouldn't let him get around her. Roanoke's magnificent dodges looked flashy, but they needed sufficient room. Once cornered, he wouldn't be able to dodge anymore. Jessica had a good understanding of the special characteristics of her equipped weapon, the brass knuckles. This powerful weapon's most notable characteristic was how it didn't let the opponent defend. Even if they blocked with their arm, the arm would receive direct damage. If they hit the wrong way, it might even break the bone. So, she pressed him forward. She would block off his escape routes, and then with this fist, she would chip this demon down.
おっと。おや、いつの間に。
ようやく追い詰めたぜ。みんなを捕らえている場所はどこだ。クソジジイのいる場所はどこだ。洗いざらい喋ったら、そのヒゲをむしり取るだけで勘弁してやるぜ。
それは困ります。これでもセットに毎朝1時間をかけているのですから。
ギブスの世話になったらそれもできね
おっと。
Roanoke had blocked Jessica's lunge fist with his arm. He tried to act as though it was no big deal, but it must have hurt a lot. Jessica grinned. Roanoke smiled the same way but twitched slightly.
なるほど。これは確かに痛いですね。
最終勧告。泣いて詫びろ。
それはできませんね。キャラが崩れます。
なら、お前が崩れ落ちるといいぜ。鶴瓶打ちだ
Jessica's iron fists were pounded into Ronov, but Jessica was startled. The impact felt wrong, and there was the sound of breaking glass. At a glance, it looked like Ronov had caught Jessica's fist with his palm. That wasn't quite true. When Ronov opened his hand, a faint purple glowing barrier like a glass shield appeared there, stopping the attack by a hair's breadth. Pulling herself together, Jessica struck out with her fist again, but with truly magnificent movements, Ronov caught all of them.
悪魔ですので。
You know, not that long ago, there was faint traces of Battler having some sort of key or power, what have you. He had it a couple of times already. So I wonder if it also is with the cousins as well. If it's like genetic or if it's inherent, you know, in all of them. So I'm hoping, by some small stroke of luck, Jessica and even George has it too, so they can, you know, activate it and be able to fight back.
この程度の魔法くらいは。それにしても、なかなかやりますね。人間だったら、私はここで降参だったでしょう。悪魔だから、まだ戦い続けることができる。
おかしな真似を。
それで終わりですか？攻撃を繰り出すばかりで、ご自身の防御がおろそかではありませんか？
え
Ronov pounded his arm into Jessica's stomach, stopping abruptly just a fraction away. Jessica was repelled by the purple shield, tumbled backwards, and smashed her head on the bed.
人間ごときに私のシールドは破れませんよ。もう二度と私の体に触れることができると思わぬことです。
ならよ、そのシールドごとぶち抜いてやるぜ。
不屈な方だ。その根性、なるほど。次期当主として実にふさわしい。もう少しお相手させていただきましょうかね。これも試験官の役得です。
砕けろ
Gap looked down on George, sneering. The merciless rain beat down on him, so that it looked as though even the heavens were mocking him.
立ちなさい。また落ちるわよ。
George stood up shakily. It seemed his spirit hadn't given in, but the damage to his body was fairly significant.
命乞いなさい。君のしていることは、何も選ばない4番目の選択肢に同じ。君が選んだのは3番目の選択肢でしょ？両手両膝をついて詫びれば、私への比例を許してあげるわ。そしたら、君を地下牢へ案内してあげる。そこで君は、愛するシャノンと、非力な自分のために、他の人質たちを一人ずつ殺していくの。できるわよね。その覚悟はあると、君は豪語したわ。
George didn't answer, but his gaze was still obstinately resisting surrender.
あまり強情が過ぎると、今度こそ、奈落の底の底まで。
Gop's strength was undeniable. There was no doubt that Shannon's group, watching through the three-sided mirror, understood that. Probably even more clearly than George himself.
庄司様。もう、やめて。私なんかのために。
姉さん。
私のことなんて好きにならなければ、ジョージ様は誰とも戦わなくていいんでしょう。なら、私なんて捨ててください。忘れてください。
There was no way for that voice to reach George, but even so, George answered.
嫌だね。僕は屈服しない。
へえ、どうして？
それが僕の覚悟だからだ。僕はシャノンのために全てと戦う。そして全てに認めさせ、全てに僕たちを祝福させる。
ねえ、聞かせて。どうしてあのシャノンとかいう家具のためにそこまで言えるの？あんなのただの出来損ないじゃない。給仕一つ満足にできないガラクタ家具だわ。
愛する女性への暴言を僕はそれ以上許さない。
だったら何？ひ弱な僕ちゃんが私にどう抗うというのかしら。
人を愛するとは強さだ。それを知ったから僕は強くなれた。シャノン、僕は君を愛している。その言葉だけで僕は何度でも立ち上がれるんだ。
シャノンは地下牢よ。私に愛を語られても。
いや、伝わった。それが愛だからだ。シャノンには今僕の言葉が聞こえているよ。そうだと信じられることこそが愛だ。
こいつ。
シャノン、君は家具なんかじゃない。家具だったとしても世界でただ一つの僕だけの家具だ。生涯僕と寄り添ってほしい。僕には君が永遠に必要だ。
ジョージ様。
焼けるわ。口説きならうちの人を超えたわね。
若さですな。
愛が強さ？なら坊やはどうしてそんなにひ弱なの？その弱さがつまり君の愛の程度なわけね。婚約者への愛もひ弱。両親のあっけない死に様もひ弱。君の人生は何から何までひ弱だわ。
シャノンは僕に愛と強さを教えてくれた。もし君が僕の強さだけでシャノンへの愛を確かめようというのなら、僕の愛を教えよ
う。言うわね。なるほど。何度も蹴り倒されて転がされ、それでも立ち上がるのがシャノンからもらった強さだと。なら、あっけなく殺されたあんたのお父さんとお母さんからは何をもらったの？
Suddenly, there was a blackout. Outside.
違う。これは。
The thing blocking Gop's vision was the bottom of George's shoe.
う。側頭蹴り、尾骨骨折。
My guy can fight now too? Alright. Nice. That stopped right in front of the tip of Gop's nose.
母さんにもらったものはこの蹴りだ。
Oh, right. That makes perfect sense. Good on you, George. After several moments of delay, Gop jumped back. Of course, it was too late. If George hadn't stopped, he probably would have caused exactly the damage he had announced.
そして父さんにもらったのが忍耐力。
Anger with a low boiling point isn't something to be truly feared. True anger is cultivated through patience.
君の暴力的意思表示は理解した。また、婚約者と両親への名誉毀損も理解した。そして、それを撤回する気がないんだね。
こいつ。
君の攻撃は、もう十分に理解したから。
Ah, see? Boom! I knew it!
そろそろいいかな。反撃しても。
Yes, please, fight back.
ほざくな、坊やの分際で。
A pitch black hole opened its mouth at George's feet. But George rapidly opened his legs, straddling the hole. The same move wouldn't work again. It was an extremely light dodge, and the upper part of his body didn't even quiver.
忍耐とは、熱くならず、冷静に相手の出方を研究することだ。何のために？決まってるじゃないか。わかるかい？
わかんないわよ。
反撃して、きっちり借りを返し、二度とちょっかいを出したくないと思わせ、涙と鼻水で顔面をぐちゃぐちゃにして、それを拭うのを忘れて、額を地面にこすりつけて、何度も謝りたくなるほどに、完膚なきまでに、完璧に、徹底的に、叩きのめすためだよ。
George dashed. Pits opened one after another, but George would not step in them again. And because she persisted in that move, Gop was captured for a second time.
後ろ回し蹴り、顎部骨折。
It was stretched out more forcefully and beautifully than Gop's had been. Of course, while it centered directly on Gop's face, it stopped a hair's breadth away. Perhaps she couldn't rely on pitfalls at this close range. Gop kicked at George's shins as a diversion, and in an instant of weakness when he tried to deal with that, she aimed a kick at his stomach. It was a bee-like stab by her stiletto heel, but it sliced through the air where George was no longer.
上段かかと落とし、鎖骨骨折。
From beside Gop, George coolly announced that his foot still raised. If that monarch's heel had been swung down, a collarbone fracture would have been an understatement.
こいつ、至近じゃ私より強いの。距離を。
She jumped backwards to gain a large distance. She jumped and left and even backflipped, increasing the distance between them. It should have been magnificent, but for some reason, it looked very similar to the movement of a small, scared animal. If she opened the distance, she could fight at the range that was her specialty, using a mixture of pitfalls and kicking techniques.
バカが私を倒せるチャンスを3度も逃した傲慢。奈落の底で後悔なさい。
Gop landed beautifully and tried to aim a pitfall, when a razor-sharp wind cut her bangs. Yes, cut them. And twice. This time it didn't just stop a hair's breadth away, but scattered her bangs with its air pressure.
アルマーダ・コン・マルテーロ。第一撃で眼底骨折。第二撃で脳挫傷。
Gop was too shocked to speak. George had closed all the distance in an instant and let off a fearsomely nimble mid-air double kick. Furthermore, with the accuracy and edge of a razor, it had cut nothing more than a few of her bangs.
空手で蹴りの威力を。テコンドーで速度。カポエイラでは自在の間合いを学んだ。
He learned capoeira? That's impressive.
母さんがいろいろと移り気でね。
Yeah, leave it to Ava. Who would have thought? Alright guys, I'm going to have to end the video here for today. Thank you all for watching. This has been a pretty exciting part of the video thus far in terms of this particular episode, because none of this was I ever expecting to happen, and here we are now. So if anything else guys, we'll continue on in the next one.